We are live now.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to say a big welcome then to everybody, and thank you all for attending this year's Fibre to Home Council of Europe webinar to introduce the Fibre Market Panorama report for 2021. My name is Eric Joyce, and I'm proud to be both a board member of the Fibre to Home Council of Europe, while also being the chair of the Market Intelligence Working Committee, which is made up of our member organizations with their representatives devoting time and energy into research, validation of our various reports released throughout the year. For those who are not familiar with the Market Panorama report, it's a yearly look into the progress Europe is making towards a full fibre future. It forms today part one of two major releases from our working group, where we take a snapshot in time, September of the previous year, so in this case, September 2020, and we paint a picture of how each country is progressing across Europe is progressing in areas such as fibre homes passed and actual active subscribers of fibre services. We also take a look at some of the year-on-year trends, and we'll point out other areas of great progress, signs of new progress on the horizon, along with a look at some of the headwinds that we need to navigate through to reach our goals. We also take a look at some qualitative outcomes of that progress and what real-life impact this can make in the home. We will couple this with the second part of this report, the market forecast, at the Fibre to the Home virtual conference in September, where we look more at future trends and make predictions while expanding somewhat on the existing report to look at some of the challenges in getting fibre to, for example, underserved areas. And we also intend to welcome back the global ranking, which has been absent for the last couple of years. So we'll see that at the second part in September. But back to today, I'm delighted to introduce Roland Montagne from our partner in this report, IDATE. Roland is a principal analyst for broadband and FTTX, as well as the director for networks and smart territories practice at IDATE. Roland is responsible for all research activities for the broadband and fibre fields at IDATE, and he and his team have been central to our Market Panorama research for many years. So before I pass the baton to Roland to take us through this year's Market Panorama report for 2021, I'd like to highlight that we'll have a couple of poll questions to keep you on your toes. Two polls in this section, and we ask many of you to participate as possible when they do pop up. And likewise, there is a question panel where you're free to submit questions to Roland or myself, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can in the time remaining, or follow up with you afterwards. So with that, Roland, I'll ask you to update us all on how Europe is progressing to our full fibre future.
Thank you very much, Eric, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my true pleasure to deliver you the update of FTTH Market Panorama in Europe in this webinar, despite I would have preferred to see you live, but I'm sure it would be for a near future. So this is the agenda of the presentation of today. I will come back on how we gather this data. We will go for a general overview and main trends for Europe concerning fibre to the home. We will try to determine who is leading the race toward full fibre with a pool that will be addressed at this stage. European ranking will be delivered also, and then we will go with some key conclusion. So what is the study background for this panorama? We are handling yearly for the FTTH Council Europe since 2004. It provides indeed a complete summary of the status of FTTH in Europe, and it is measured each year as September. So for this panorama, the measurement is done for September 2020. The scope, geographical scope of analysis, is covering 39 countries, and we try for each project to deliver key parameters such as the status of homes passed, subscribers, but also technical choice and also investment or regulatory situation in the country. Our methodology is clearly bottom-up approach. Of course, there is some desk research at the beginning of the exercise, but then we go with direct contact with the leading players involved in FTTH rollout, and of course we have also extensive exchange with the members of the FTTH Council Europe to adjust the data, and the result here are both quantitative and qualitative, given the market status per project and also at the level of the country. First, it is important to have in mind what are the key definitions for our panorama. Three key definitions. First is homes passed, where here we are measuring the homes where the fiber is arriving in a service area, and the definition excludes premises that cannot be connected without further installation or substantial fiber plant to reach the subscriber location. Sockets is here defined like connection point of a single fiber, single provider inside or outside the premises. And here we know that there is a possibility to have multiple sockets in the location. So here we are not taking into account the overlap that is taken into account, of course, on the homes passed measurement. Finally, the subscribers are the premises or the homes we are paying for a fiber connection. So we are connected to a network. What is the general overview and main trends in this part 2 of the presentation? Well, here you have the key figures for this edition of the panorama. If we look FTTH, FTTB, fiber to the home, fiber to the building, and it is measured in line with the FCGA definition. We are measuring here in EU39. EU39 composition is on one side EU27 plus United Kingdom, but also 4 CIS countries and other countries such as Iceland, Israel, or Norway, or Switzerland, or Turkey, for example. The total in terms of subscribers is 82 million, to be compared to 183 million FTTHB homes passed. We have to point out the growth. I will come back on this more in detail, but the growth here on the subscriber base is plus 17% year to year. And for the homes passed, it's 12%, a little bit less, demonstrating that the market is today more oriented on the commercialization of this fiber to the home. Also important to be noticed is the take-up rate. It is the ratio subscribers on homes passed. Well, there is a progression on EU27 plus UK, 46.9, it's up 3.6%. Also a progression, less than 2% for EU49, 39, and nearly 45%. Coverage rate also, which is the ratio homes passed on total homes, is progressing at the level of EU27 plus UK, with a plus 4.4 at 43.8, and it's also a progression less, but it is for EU39 more than 52%. We know that especially with the pandemic crisis, teleworking has really been developed in Europe with no choice, and for this there is a need for a robust connectivity. So we have seen an acceleration in Europe of the subscription level. Also, EU27 plus UK countries account for more than 56% of the total FTTH subscription. This is an increase compared to last year of 2019. Also, with more than 98 million homes passed, it means that more than half, 54% of those deployments are performed inside EU27 plus UK. So you can see here the steady growth with this acceleration since last year in EU39 in terms of subscribers, and also in EU27 plus UK, and the same, I would say, at the level of homes passed in EU27 plus UK and EU39. We're also looking here in the panorama, what are the categories of players deploying fiber to the home. We have pointed out in this panorama around 400 FTTHB initiative at September last year. You can see on the right side of the slide the breakdown in terms of FTTH home pass and the top 5 European countries in terms of volume. Number 1 being Russia, nearly 50 million, France, more than 21 million, Spain, nearly 16 million, Ukraine, below 12 million, and Italy, 11 million. You can see also, especially from September 2019 to September 2020, that 39% of Connect Home are passed by incumbent versus 41 in 2019. So it shows that Altnet increased their part of market share in 1 year. Also, municipalities and utilities are a kind of category covering many remote and isolated areas, further enhanced with public fund and incentive, and they represent, September last year, 4% of the homes passed. Before going to this question, who is leading the race toward full fiber? We have a poll here, Eric.
Yes, indeed. Let me just kick off this poll here one moment, and I'm going to launch this. And the question is going to be, which country in the EU 39, so all 39 countries that form the basis of the report, has topped the homes passed growth chart in absolute numbers over the past year? So I've gone ahead and launched that. We have about 90 seconds. If you can go ahead and make your guess, make your estimate based on this list here, and we'll check and see how those results are looking. Quite interesting at the moment. A good mix of responses. And I'll give it another 30 seconds unless activity does slow down. We seem to have a lot of votes in already, which is great. A few more votes for Spain going in at the last minute. All right, I'm going to go ahead and screenshot this and just make sure if I hit close here, it's not, and I'll share the results. So we had France here being the top choice with 31% of people choosing France. United Kingdom in second with 25, and Spain just coming behind with 24, with Germany and Poland then making up 4th and 5th place in our poll. So Roland, I'm going to close this, and if you can take us to the actual leaderboard and let us know who actually stole that top spot.
So France, UK, and Spain. Let's see the results. So the results are pointed out in terms of homes passed and the growth are here presented in the slide. First, you can see on the right side of this slide the fastest market in terms of percentage. Of course, it depends on the starting point in terms of quantitative volume. So you see that in terms of percentage, Belgium is number 1, followed by Germany, UK, also Ireland being there. And in terms of volume, you see this is France being number 1 with plus 4.6 million new homes passed in 1 year, followed by Italy plus 2.8 million in terms of homes passed, and followed by Germany with plus 2.7 million homes passed. The UK here is number 4 in this ranking with plus 1.7 million homes passed. If we look at the same ranking at EU 39 in terms of homes passed, of course, here Russia is leading the league, closer to 48 million homes passed. Then we have also a newcomer in the ranking here in terms of volume. It's Turkey at the 5th place with a growth in 1 year of plus 1.2 million homes passed, and then the top 4 is not changed compared to EU 27 in terms of new homes passed and volume total. We're also looking at the coverage, of course, in this panorama. This is the ratio homes passed on total homes. You see here the result for EU 27 of plus UK. So we can say that today we are halfway there, I would say. Indeed, here 14 up 28 upon 28 countries are exceeding 50% of total homes passed with full fiber. You see after the result in terms of coverage, this time in EU 39, here we have 20 countries that have more than 50% of total homes with full fiber. So you can see the leaders in terms of coverage, like from Belarus, Latvia, or Iceland. Spain is also well positioned. You see also the average for EU 39, more than 52%, and the average for EU 27 plus UK, less than 44%. It's also quite interesting to see this on a map. This is the summary map here with the different, I would say, categories of countries in terms of coverage. Well, we see that coverage are historically quite high in the north of Europe, and this is here verified in the pioneer market like Sweden with more than 80% in terms of coverage, or Iceland 90%. It is also very high in the south part of Europe with the leaders in terms of deployment over there, Portugal with 83%, or Spain 88%. Then we have France with 73% in terms of homes covered. Italy is halfway, I would say, with 41%. Poland also more than 40%. And then we have the two more native markets, I would say, like the UK and Germany, close to 15%. We are also measuring in this panorama the socket deployed. I don't come back here in the definition, so it's not taking into account overlap. This is here what's happening in EU 27 plus UK, the same. You have on the right side the growth in terms of percentage of the market and the total in terms of homes socket deployed. So here again, the top market are France, Spain, and Italy in the top 3, followed by Germany and the UK. This was on EU 27 plus UK. We have the same picture for socket deployed on EU 39. So here, the same, you have on the right side of the slide the fastest growing market, and things are nearly unchanged here, with maybe the main change being Russia being at the third place in terms of volume, or also Serbia being with a strong growth in terms of socket deployed. After talking about the deployment, it's important, of course, to see the success of commercialization of fiber to the home. We have here the FTTHB subscribers and the EU27 plus UK ranking. The same on the right side, we have the growth in terms of volume. You see here the presence of Ireland or Italy or Greece or Germany or Belgium. And in terms of volume, in 1 year, again, France is representing the fastest number, the highest number of new subscribers in 1 year, plus 2.8 million, followed by Spain, plus 1.4 million, and followed by Germany with plus 700,000 in this market. If we look at the same subscriber ratio, looking this time on EU 39, well, you see newcomers here in terms of the fastest growing market, like Israel, for example, being here at plus 64%. And you see also in terms of volume, France is still number 1, plus 2.8 million, but Russia with plus 1.7 million, it's number 2 in volume here. And we have also the coming of Turkey with more than 700,000 new subscribers in 1 year. This indicator is quite important also. We call this the take-up rate. It is measuring the commercial success. Indeed, it is the ratio home passed over household. The take-up rate for EU27 plus UK has seen a progression close to 47%. Also a progression for EU49, close to 45%. And here you see this take-up rate positioning. Well, again, in the north, the success is there with Iceland, close to 80%. The success also is here in Spain with 71%. In the other country, France including, or the UK or Germany or Italy, there is competition with other platforms. For example, VDSL and cable in the UK or Germany, still performing ADSL also in France, and the same in Italy. So there is still a work here for the deployers of fiber to the home to promote the benefit of FTTH and to enhance this ratio of take-up rate. This year, as a new action, we have decided also to do a little focus on microstates. We are not present in the European ranking because of the minimum household in one country to be part of the European ranking. But we have pointed out here 4 microstates where fiber to the home is progress with good ratios. The champ, I would say, in these 4 microstates is Andorra, with nearly 100% of the country covered, and a penetration rate fiber subscribers on total household of more than 80%. Liechtenstein also is doing a good performance with close to 70% of the homes being already passed with fiber. Penetration rate is below 50% in Liechtenstein. Monaco is doing well in terms of homes passed and the ratio of coverage, 60%. But the commercial success is not really here today because of competition with other platforms. So there is here clearly a point of progress concerning fiber, with only 3% of the households being subscribing to fiber to the home. Finally, San Marino is representing 56% in terms of coverage, and a little bit less of 50% in terms of penetration rate. So it was a premiere for this microstate progress, and we will continue to follow the progress in those microstates for the coming panorama. Also here, a new approach coming from the market committee. We try here to overlap the fiber penetration alongside with the Ookla Global Index, looking at the fixed upload bandwidth on one side, and also alongside the Ookla Global Index, talking about latency. So we know that full fiber connectivity is really designed at the residential stage to support the increasing demand of demanding intensive bandwidth services such as 4K TV, 4K HDR TV, and 8K coming. This is also the good medium for enabling working from home, and we know that this has been really an increase of working from home, of course, with the current COVID pandemic. And video conferencing, like you are doing today, has been also one of the killer apps of this period. So on the left side of this slide, you see the correlation quite clear between the fixed upload bandwidth and the fiber penetration. You see clearly this decrease of fiber fixed upload bandwidth in countries where penetration is quite low. This is quite clear. On the right side of this slide, another we know benefit of fiber, of course, is to be the best medium to deliver short latency, and this is verified when we are looking at this latency global index by Ookla. The same, we can see that the latency is quite low, where the penetration of fiber is quite high, and inversely, where the penetration rate is quite low, then the latency is growing in terms of millisecond, more than 30 milliseconds. So a very interesting slide, I believe, to really demonstrate in terms of bandwidth and in terms of latency, what are the main benefits to have a fiber to the home connection. For part of the presentation will be to present you the European ranking as September 2020, waiting for the global ranking, as Eric was saying, for the September FTTH Council Europe conference. This European ranking is measuring the penetration rate of European countries, the penetration rate is the ratio subscribers on total households in the country. We also distinguish here the technology being fiber to the home directly in blue, and fiber to the building, stopping at the basement of the building. So the champion here in Europe is again Iceland with 70.7%, and very close we have Belarus, more than 70%. One main economy of Europe is number 3, Spain, with more than 62%, followed by Sweden. We have Russia at more than 40%, with a high proportion of fiber to the building. France is 35%, and then we see the average of EU27 plus UK more than 20%. And at the bottom of this ranking, we can point out countries such as Italy, less than 6%, of Germany, less than 5%, or the UK, less than 4%, or again Austria 2%, or Belgium a little bit more than 1%. So here are the economies with at least 125,000 in terms of household. But I think it's also time here for a new poll, Eric.
Indeed, yeah. So on the next slide, we're going to show you something which we haven't included before. So now that we've crossed that magic 50% threshold when it comes to homes passed in Europe, we wanted to start focusing a little bit more on what's left rather than what's been accomplished. Both are very important, but one thing that this slide showed us at the top was that there's still quite a lot of work left to be done across the region. So we wanted to ask a question and just get your immediate opinions before we give you the answer. But how many countries do you think make up 60% of the remaining homes left to be connected in the EU27 plus UK? So here's the question here. The poll is now open, and we'll go for about 60 to 90 seconds. How many countries make up approximately 60% of the remaining homes to be connected in the EU27 plus UK? We've got a very even split so far, just with a slight preference for one. Good voting turnout so far, just almost 70% of you have responded. So remaining 30%, we'll go another 10 seconds or so and see where we end up. All right, so we'll go ahead now and close that poll with 76% having voted. And I'll share now those results with you. So of the attendees today, for how many countries make up 60%, the largest number of estimates are in and around 5 countries, with 3, 4, and 6 almost identical with 18% each, and 7 taking up the last place here. So I'll go ahead and hide this now and go back to your presentation, Roland, and if you can let us know what the real answer is.
Thank you, Eric. Indeed, the 3 countries representing almost 60% of the entire remaining homes to be passed in the EU27 plus UK are Germany, UK, and Italy. But let me go into detail of this slide. Indeed, you see here in blue what remains to be done in terms of home passed, and in pink was already being done in terms of homes passed. So you see indeed in country like Germany, more than 34 million homes have to be passed. In the United Kingdom, more than 23 million. In Italy, more than 15 million. And on the other side, you see countries that already quite advanced in terms of home passed, with a large, long pink part, like France, for example, where only 8 million homes remain to be passed, like Romania, for example, 2.3 million, like Spain, with only 2.2 million. And of course, you see the other countries with the remaining part being quite low on the bottom of the slide. So this shows really the dynamic of the main market in Europe. The top three are mentioned. If we took the top 6 countries, so you had to these top 3, Poland, France, and Netherlands, and here those countries make up over 75% of the entire remaining homes to be passed in EU 27 plus UK. What are the key conclusions of this market panorama? Well, we have seen that we have both positive and negative criteria that should be considered. First, there is competition with other technology. The first is the fixed wireless access, and especially the gigabit capable fixed wireless access. It is a platform that can be used in isolated areas, so it can delay FTTH deployment in those areas. And we believe also when millimeter waves will be available for 5G technology, that it will be also the same challenge for FTTH in some areas. We have seen in some countries still competition with other alternative technology. We know that cable, when it is properly deployed with DOCSIS 3.1, can deliver a giga connection, or CAT 4.0 will also be capable of very high capacity bandwidth, and there is also evolution of DSL for like GFast, for example. We know that today consumers are well educated, especially when they are obliged to work from home. They are more and more differentiating the quality of their connection, and some misleading fiber advertising. We are not really fiber, but fiber to the curb. Today, we see consumers and teleworkers making a difference with a true fiber connection. We have seen delay also in some countries, not all for sure, but in some countries by up to 2 years. And here we believe that the government of those countries should take action to consider this delay and to push for a coordination in fiber rollout in the country. In the potential growth market for tomorrow, for example, UK and Germany, we know that the availability of skilled labor to build out this new fiber network is beginning to be felt in late 2020. There is a challenge here to provide sufficient skilled technician to deploy this fiber to the home in those countries when the peak will arrive in 21 or 22. And this is a challenge, of course, in the hand of the government of those countries to have a proper training for these technicians. Positive impact are there. The first of them is the data demand and bandwidth has intensified, especially in the time of COVID-19 and this work from home situation. This has accelerated in some countries deployment of fiber to the home and adoption of fiber to the home for those new usages. We have seen also authorities, national government taking new action at the national level program in terms of being also in line with the European Commission digital agenda goals for 2025 or 2030. We know also that there is innovation in civil engineering, and there is innovation also in micro trenching and cable design. This can be a less disruptive way of rolling fiber in the heart of the cities, for example. And we see also progress in profile cable design for other better aesthetics when it looks at indoor, for example, cabling. To provide a larger coverage of fiber to the home, we have seen also partnership and mutualized agreement from operators, especially when fiber to the home has to be deployed outside dense areas. This partnership from a private operator is key to accelerate this deployment outside the more easier, I would say, part of a country when it is very dense, but it is really a necessity to have this mutualization of investment when it is especially in isolated and rural areas. Finally, we see also funds being involved in investing in fiber to the home. More maybe when we are talking about funds, more deciding to invest when they are in front of open access network, but there is still a willingness for those funds to invest in this fiber technology, which is quite secure for the future. I would like to conclude here with several points. First, to say that fiber to the home is reaching a new level of deployment. We have seen that fiber networks are now covering more than half of total household in the EU39, 53%. This is really an achievement for connectivity across Europe. EU39 is reaching 82 million FTTH subscribers, and EU27 plus UK is accounting for 56% of those subscribers. Homes passed are reaching 183 million with full fiber, to be compared to 98 million for EU27 plus UK. Key lessons can be learned here. We know now that in many we call historical copper-based countries where VDSL has been deployed, like UK, Germany, or Italy, that now the pandemic also being there and tending to accelerate, the players, the government are looking toward full fiber connectivity in this country. And to remind you that there is still some distance and then potential for the fiber industry, with those three countries representing 60% of the remaining homes to be passed in EU27 plus UK. National authorities are more and more involved in the digital transformation. There is of course emergency being taking decision with this COVID crisis. We have seen revision of national program with relevant policy framework to promote fiber expansion. So this is a good point, I would say, to see government today helping for fiber to the home. Even for unserved areas, unserved region where fiber to the home in terms of economy can be a challenge, there is today a concern for these areas with the COVID pandemic, they need reliable networks like the other zone of the country, and it's a matter of success also for the economy of a country to go and connect those more challenging rural areas. Finally, I would like to remind you what are the main movers in terms of home passed in Europe. France has been the number one, plus 4.6. Italy plus 2.8, and Germany, this is a good news, is now on the podium with plus 2.7 million. So this is a proof of big success in terms of deployment in those countries. So this is basically what I wanted to share with you. But now I give the mic to Eric, and I'm quite happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Roland. We really appreciate the efforts you and the IDATE team have done to help us pull together this year's Market Panorama report. So we did get a whole bunch of questions in. I've answered some of them in the directly, so hopefully everybody can see those questions and answers. And there's a few more that I can probably answer some of them myself, and then I may deflect some of them to Roland. But the one that I see here was on our comparison really with the Ookla data. So obviously we showed upload bandwidth and we showed latency, and you could see quite clearly in those graphs the trend across those countries, and there was a clear benefit accruing to those countries who have actually rolled out a high number of subscribers of fiber services. So we did get a question, was there also a correlation for download bandwidth with that penetration? And the answer is yes, there is. It's a lot less, and I'll explain why in just a moment. So the reason we included the two that we did is they're directly impacting on work from home activities, where download itself was affected. We have to understand that a lot of the speed tests, you know, really what we're doing when we get to the download speed, because some of those are so high on DOCSIS technologies and even VDSL or 35B technologies, is that the download speed is already quite high, at least as far as the devices that we use can achieve over things like Wi-Fi inside the home. And so what we see is we do absolutely see a trend towards high fiber sites, but it wasn't quite as visible as the upload data and the latency data. So we picked those to highlight the difference that we saw. Another question we had here, let me see. You may have actually covered this on the sockets slide, Roland, so I'll call this out. Do you have an idea of the percentage of overbuild in the EU27 plus UK and the EU39 regions? So, you know, how many countries have, you know, typically a single deployments to each home, and in how many countries is there obvious overbuild?
Well, there is some countries where overbuild is quite high. The case of Spain, for example, is there. The case of France also, but it is a different overbuild because it's stopping at the point of mutualization, I would say. There is also some overbuild in some eastern part of Europe. And it can be also an overbuild appearing in native market. In the UK, for example, I have in mind that in the city of Cambridge, you can have access at the same point to 3 or 4 FTTH operators. So this happening in these countries. It is happening mainly in dense areas where private investment is key, and where some telcos are convinced that you have to own your own network to address the residential. But of course, this is not the case even in those countries when you are going outside high dense areas.
Okay, another question here was really just one for clarification. We were asked regarding, so obviously a lot of the numbers we show are for fiber to the home, but also fiber to the building. Of course, fiber to the curb is completely excluded from any of the numbers that we're showing you here today. So there was a question about the technologies that are considered for the last drop in an FTTB scenario.
Well, in a FTTB scenario, it really depends on what's available in the building. Most of the time, in building, you have different technologies. In some Eastern country, it can be a coax for the last portion of the building. It can be also copper in other case. So this is really taking into account the heritage in terms of technology being deployed inside the MDUs in each country. So it is quite variable, I would say, from one country to another.
Okay. There's a couple of questions kind of around the topic of open networks. So this is really where countries may be deploying a single infrastructure network and then having that wholesale retail environment, I guess, more tightly regulated. Do you have any, I guess, comments on Europe and any countries in general that might be going down that route in particular?
Well, the pioneer, I would say, in terms of open access network for Europe has been a country like Sweden, for example, when the first deployment already it was involved in open access network. The city of Stockholm is an example, or also the municipality, the Stadsnet in Sweden, were a kind of pioneer in Europe. Then there is the planned very high-speed broadband in France, where in France nearly each of the 100 departments are deciding to set up a consortium to establish and operate an open access network. But the country has been divided by the private investment going in cities and dense area, and the open access network being deployed in the department outside those dense areas. We see also some example in Poland today of open access network being proposed for some areas. So this is really, I would say, Italy also with the example of involvement of open fiber. This is really today a strategic approach, quite common, I would say, in Europe, where you want to push fiber rollout outside of dense areas.
Okay, there's a few questions coming in talking about what equipment vendors, but I'll close that for a minute and say what technology types are being chosen for fiber to the home deployment. I can maybe give my view first, and Roland, maybe you can chime in afterwards, because I know you have these details in the report. You know, a lot of countries have already deployed more of a point-to-point architecture over the previous years. There's certainly some advantages to doing that. However, we're definitely seeing a switch towards more PON-like technologies. We're taking more advantage of a passive optical distribution network. And especially now, as there's a kind of a larger focus on lower energy consumption and less active equipment in the field, we're seeing a lot of those point-to-point operators start to migrate towards PON technology, especially now that those speeds have increased past GPON to 10 gig PON and future versions of PON now being standardized. I think that's my own view of it. But Roland, have you any some figures maybe you can give us and some experience over what that transition has been like over the last couple of years?
No, I completely share your view, Eric. At the beginning of the fiber adventure, I was saying we started this panorama in 2004. So here there was some Ethernet point-to-point deployment in Sweden, for example, even in France, it was happening. But more and more, because also of the metrics of the economy of scale being today more in the camp of a PON, and the deployment of massive PON network has already happened in China, for example. So this driving the cost also quite low in terms of PON technology, and the performances also are there in terms of less space to be taken inside the ducts, and all the family of next-gen PON arriving, as you said, Eric, 10G PON, but also is quite soon a 25 PON or 50G PON. So today, nearly 95%, I would say, of the homes passed in Europe are done on PON technology.
Excellent, thank you for that. I've seen a question pop up a couple of times now, and it's quite topical. So I thought I'd address that as the last question, as we are getting down to the last few minutes. So we've mentioned fixed wireless access, and we've mentioned, of course, advances in DOCSIS and copper technologies like GFast, impacting fiber rollout. But I guess we don't see a massive mention of low Earth orbit systems. Starlink is being deployed at the moment, and there's at least 3 or 4 other ventures offering or planning to offer similar systems. And do we see that as being a competitor to fiber, or a delaying factor for fiber? My immediate point would be that for coverage and for access of very difficult areas, it's a wonderful technology and development, and it's providing what I would equate to maybe an FTTC type service at best at the moment. So I don't see it as a replacement or a direct competitor to a full fiber, whether it be FTTH or FTTB connection, but it is a wonderful way of connecting areas that simply cannot be connected in any other way.
For sure, I'm in line with you. A system like Starlink is not there today. It will be, but it's not there today. But there is a new satellite solution involved in K-band, for example. Eutelsat has this kind of solution being proposed for France, for example, since March this year. So here, this is a good solution to connect with 100 megabit. So it's not negligible zones where fiber will arrive in 2, 3, or 4 years. So this is an immediate solution that can give a user in those areas a better solution than what they are experiencing today.
All right, thank you for that. So we've only got about 2 minutes left. So at this point, there's lots of questions we didn't get to. I apologize. We will try and come back to you individually on that over the next couple of days. We do have a record of those questions. So what I would like to do really is, first of all, say thank you to Roland for taking us through the report this afternoon. And thank you to everybody who sent in a question or even participated today. And my apologies again for not getting to each one. If you want, you can reach out individually. You have our contact details on this slide if we do not get back to you. I'd also like to say a big thank you to our operations team, Emilia, Harriet, and Sergey, for managing the webinar and all of the communications around it. This wouldn't have happened without them. And I'd like to remind everybody that this year's Fibre to the Home conference will again be a virtual event taking place on September 15th and 16th of this year, where we promise to have some fantastically detailed discussions on the state of fibre, with 20 expert workshops, 17 conference sessions, and over 150 leading speakers. So we really look forward to seeing you there remotely, of course, this year. And we assure you that plans are in motion for a physical event in 2022, where we also hope to see you all in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.